I say, I would go to like coffee shops and I would discuss things with different men and of like, they were pastors and different people. And I would listen to them and I would go home and I would kind of feel like, maybe what I shared with them, I should have shared it differently. I should have done it this way. And it was a lot of things I was afraid to say, afraid to even open my mouth about. And that's a healthy fear. And the reason why it's a healthy fear is because I didn't really know it. I just had a feeling at the point. I didn't know how to articulate. I wasn't evolved to understand what exactly I was experiencing at the time. But right now, I know what I was experiencing. I was starting the hero's journey. I was starting the process of understanding, who I am. And that was my existence on this planet. And as I set out on this knowledge-based search at the time, it opened my eyes to so many more possibilities. And the possibility that really stood out to me is the fact that I was more powerful than I thought I was. I had more understanding of creation than I ever knew and thought to know. I was like, wait a minute, I'm learning about things. I'm seeing things differently. Energy is becoming something, and sound is the biggest thing at that time that I was exploring and having a lot of flashbacks. And what I mean is just those things that as a kid or as a child that I remembered. And one simple story as a child, I remember how it felt and to this day, I guess it's not a child thing, but everybody, growing up from Oklahoma and then coming to Delaware and Virginia, when the seasons change, you can smell the seasons. You know when rain is coming. So those things were highly important to me. And I started to really sit with those things. Like when the season changed, I sat with that. Like I remembered it as maybe it's football season, but then I started to rewrite that. No, it's a different season. Everything's starting to blossom, bloom. Whether it's spring or whatever, I would analyze those seasons and then not try, because I did. I would make myself create in whatever season it was. And what I mean by that, if it's cold outside, I would create comfort. And I don't mean comfort as in I'm comfortable, but what was comforting to me is I don't mind being cold. So I would still go for my walks. And instead of walking around shivering, I would explain to myself, and I had my camera, I always had my camera at that time. I would explain to myself how beautiful it is, the cold. In that season, I enjoyed every season for those 2 years. Every day I set out to try to enjoy it. It was a lot of frustration because you're dealing with your own mirror. You're dealing with your own reflection. You're dealing with your own ideas and perception and what you thought things were. So you have to, in essence, burn it. Throw that stuff to the side. Tell that stuff to leave you alone, at least for that season, because this is what I'm learning. And that understanding of the hero's journey, it was building in me the call of adventure. It's like, what's next? What do you want to accomplish? How do you want to accomplish? And there was no divine answer that came to us. There was no understanding of, okay, this is what the next step is. Everybody gave me, if I talked to them about it, the next step. Oh, you should provide and be a husband and be a father and make sure your family's stable, get some good health care and all that stuff. And all that stuff is amazing. And all that stuff is exactly what I've heard all my life. But I didn't want that. I knew it was something greater. Not that you were wrong, not that I was wrong. I was seeking my own calling, period. And I was set back. I viewed it. And I'm like, if I do this, I know the end result. If I do this job, I know the end result. Okay, I can go try to do this, but I know the end result. And the end was something that I perceived, and I wanted something that I could create. So the call for adventure set out. And when it started, I can't say it was after, I don't know, I can't say exactly when it happened, but the call for adventure becomes the matter, the things around you start to create. And what I mean by that, and maybe I said that wrong, but follow me for a second. Matter is thought, and thoughts matter. So what I was thinking, I was creating my reality and trying to align my thoughts with everything I wanted to create. For us athletes, for we do it all the time, envisioning the shot, the next play, what play is going, how to make the tackle, how to swing the bat. I was thinking those things constantly, all day, every day. It was not a waste of time for me. It was so serious to where even my wife, and she knows me very well, I would drive her insane with just repeating the same mantra, repeating the same thought, repeating the same, anything that I knew would lead me on the path of understanding and enlightenment. When that call came that our lease would be up in 2 years, or it was getting close to that second year, anything that was saying adventure, 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 I set out and I at least gave it my attention for a good time. And some of the stuff was work stays, and that was something me, couch surfing, woofing, I believe it's woofers or woofing. That was another thing. And all that was, babe, let's explore all of it. And what would happen? I would get in conversation with people, whether it be a friend, whether it be my mom, dad, whatever. It wasn't necessarily my dad, but my dad at that time, I think we had a conversation. I can't remember if it was before or after Delaware, whatever the case may be. But the point that I'm trying to make is, or the thing that I'm trying to share is, everybody's input was important. Because if I got frustrated with the input, I said, this is not my emotion. So what do I need to do to change it? And every time I went down emotion of thinking about how to, my father should have been more in my life, or my mother should have said this, or my cousin should have did this, or this person hurt my feelings. All that stuff was irrelevant, because if it came to me and it arrived and I let it sit with me, it was in essence energy. That's the way I viewed it. It was energy. And is this good energy? Can I create with it? What does it motivate me to do? And all that stuff motivate me even more for the call. And the call for adventure, it's no words you can really put on it. It's just a call. We all have a calling or something on our life, something we love to do, artists, all that stuff. We all have a calling. And when something calls, answer. And that's what I was looking for. And that's what I was seeking, the answer. Who am I? What am I capable of? What can I accomplish? And when we started exploring like woofing and those things, I mean, Toya has a beautiful energy, a very loving, wonderful energy, but I also knew she was afraid. I was afraid too, but I also knew she trusted me in that adventure. And then our boys were young. Like I said, Daniel was 4 at the time, or 3, and Jay was just finishing first grade. And once we set out, it was very simple. But let me back up a little bit, slow down. In that process of understanding the call, I tried to explain it, and I could say to my uncle maybe. And Uncle OC, I'll say his name. I remember talking to him right before, at least a couple months before we left. And he basically told me I was convicted, like, meaning you're serious. The way you sound, you're serious about what you're saying. I support you. He didn't say, I'm scared for you. He don't say, if everybody, Uncle OC, that's not him, but he said, I support you. That's the biggest thing. He said, Pep, you convicted. You sound serious. I don't know, but I support you. And that's all that's needed in those moments. That one person to say, I support you. And it was for in that situation. And he's been amazing throughout my life. But in that situation, that was the biggest sound, the biggest energy that I leaned on. And I said, if Uncle OC supports us, then we good. And if it was a thing of, was I looking for his support? No. But when I shared what I understood at the time, his support and his words that he shared with me were monumental. As we traveled, it became louder and louder. But and again, I'm speeding through this process, and I want to kind of unpack everything when it comes to starting at least my call for adventure, or our call for adventure at that time. It was sitting with all those things that And I think around that time, 2008, and the crisis hit, it was not a good energy around our economy. It was not fun. It was tough for a lot of people, and it was a lot of people upset and emotional. I think, no, I don't think it was a government shutdown. I believe that was not that they don't do that every year. They have that discussion often, but that was a big thing that I was really investigating, reading about, learning about, trying to understand, like, why is it shutting down? Why do we put this out in the news? Why? What is so important about all of these simple things? So the biggest thing at that, my senses were on for everything. Everything that was presented and came my way or came our way, we analyzed it, no matter what it was. And it was the simplest things as seeing a bear in Virginia with the boys. We had a system, and our system was very simple. It was Daniel would always leading. He would always be out front, so I would be behind Daniel, and Daniel would have this thing saying march. March. He was young, but he loved to lead, so we let him lead. I was behind Daniel. Jaden's behind me, and Mommy would always be in the back, and we always carried a whistle. And we were walking through the mountains as we normally do, and there was a bear there, a mother bear. And I only know it was a mother bear because maybe 2 weeks prior I was there and I saw a cub, and I didn't see her. So when I saw the same bear, and I think one of the workers at that park was saying, yeah, she comes down and turns over the trash and different things. But anyway, we saw the bear, and the boys had this no fear mentality. Actually, it was no fear there. They said this, I don't remember if it was Daniel or Jaden, but you could feel them. They were so excited because the bear was like 20 feet, maybe 20 meters away from us, but kind of down in a little gully. And Daniel and Jaden, they weren't afraid. In essence, they were looking at the bear like we were in a zoo. We've seen bear before, but obviously this was our closest encounter. I've been closer to, bear as I walked through, and they would cross my path, but I've never been with my family. So this was the moment. And she took off running. The bear took off running. A cub scurried down the tree. Toya started blowing the whistle. And as we walked a little further, the second cub, which I didn't see that a couple of weeks ago, came down the tree. And we were excited, and not by like any reason other than we saw a bear and we were excited and we wanted to share. And the first thing people say is the fear. And it's not that they're wrong. I'm not saying that these people are wrong. I'm learning like those things, those simple things, the boys and nobody, and I shared it and Toya shared it in essence too soon. And we were too not evolved to understand like what we were actually doing, because we were just enjoying life, enjoying the existence of being apart. Not that we didn't have a fear of bear, but we had planned, we had thought it out, and it worked to perfection. And we thought that was what we could share. But you can't share everything. You can't. People just won't understand. You just have to go after what you want. And that's what those things taught me. Again, I'm not here to make anyone feel bad. I'm telling my story. And once I understood, like my fear was to sit, I was too afraid of not being a good father. I was too afraid of not being a good husband. That was my ultimate fear. That is what kept me like, I need to be the best me so these boys can have a great life. So my wife can be proud that I'm her husband. That was my goal, period.